We'll celebrate with elite people only.
If you don't like it, just leave.
I agree. Mike doesn't belong in this crowd.
Ethan joined in with Alan and Sarah, mocking me. Their words froze Hannah's expression. Hannah's guests, confused, fell silent, while Ethan's guests, mostly banking associates, said nothing, adhering to his family status. I struggled to maintain composure, but eventually clenched my fists tightly as my patience snapped. However, without letting my anger show, I silently glared at Ethan and the others. At that moment, I resolved to end their humiliation I had endured. I'm closing my $20 billion account.
What?
My words echoed through the room. Ethan, momentarily confused, could only look dumbfounded. What followed was their profound regret for the way they treated me. My name is Mike Calloway, a 59-year-old man. I work for a major trading company and dedicate myself to the business. Born into a rural household, I was lovingly raised by my parents. When I was 10, my father passed away from illness, leaving my mother and me to cope with our grief. Despite our poverty, my mother worked tirelessly to support my education and our living expenses. Though we were poor, life with just my mother and me was not unhappy. My mother worked tirelessly, day and night, to earn money for my tuition and living expenses. Wanting to lighten her burden, I gave up on college and started working right after high school. My youth was sacrificed for our family, but I never regretted it. 4 years later, while I was still engrossed in part-time jobs, my mother, who worked at a different workplace, suddenly collapsed from illness and passed away in the hospital. At 22, the reality of losing my mother was overwhelmingly heavy. The grief was deep, but I buried it in my heart and tried to overcome it by immersing myself in work. One day, I ran into a high school classmate in town. She was the only person who knew about my family situation. I felt awkward, yet a sense of nostalgia and warmth filled my heart. The classmate encouraged me, who had just lost my mother, and soon we began exchanging messages frequently, with her listening to my struggles. Gradually, the time I spent with her became my emotional support, and before I knew it, I found myself drawn to her. One day, I mustered the courage to confess, and it turned out she felt the same way, so we started dating. As our love grew steadily, I proposed to her at 24, after transitioning from a part-time position to a full-time job. She accepted with a smile, and we married at 25. By 30, our daughter Hannah was born. My life seemed to be progressing smoothly. However, those happy days didn't last. 5 years later, my wife, the former classmate, was involved in a sudden car accident on her way home from work and never came back. At that moment, I lost yet another loved one. My heart felt empty, but there was still something I needed to protect. My 5-year-old daughter, Hannah. No matter what, I vowed to protect her. That was my determination. Since then, I devoted myself entirely to work and household duties, raising Hannah on my own. Now, she's 29 years old and has become an independent adult contributing to society. I quietly watch her grow, waiting for the day she finds a partner who brings her happiness. One day, something happened. In the quiet living room at night, I sank into the sofa, trying to relax from the day's fatigue, staring absent-mindedly at the TV. At home, it had been just Hannah and me, but she had grown into a capable adult, walking firmly on her own path. It was then that she spoke to me.
Dad, do you have a moment? I need to talk.
Sure. What's on your mind? Hannah entered the living room, looking slightly nervous. Her serious expression caught my attention, but I responded in a calm voice.
Well, I have a fiance.
What? Are you serious? The moment I heard those words, a wave of mixed emotions surged within me. Happiness and sadness overwhelmed me at the same time. The thought of my daughter finally leaving my care made my heart ache a little. Nodding slightly, Hannah began explaining about her fiancé. After graduating from a prestigious university, she joined the sales department at the headquarters of Union Star Bank, a major financial institution. While dedicating herself to her work, she grew close to Ethan Smith, who was her supervisor at the time, and they started dating about 3 years after they met. Recently, he proposed to her, and Hannah accepted, leading to their engagement. Hearing this explanation, joy once again filled my heart. Seeing Hannah looking so happy was the greatest joy for me as her father. Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thanks. But
Hannah, what's wrong? Her expression darkened, and after trying to say something, she hesitated. When I gently asked, she lowered her gaze awkwardly and continued explaining about Ethan. From what she said, it seemed she had some concerns. Ethan is currently a manager in the sales department at Union Star Bank's headquarters, but he often acts arrogantly and refers to himself as an elite. He's from a Harvard graduate with top academic performance, appears to be overly self-confident due to his achievements. He reportedly treats other employees in a condescending manner on a daily basis. Admittedly, being promoted to manager at the young age of 32 is impressive. However, I couldn't help but disapprove of his arrogant attitude. Because of these behaviors, Ethan isn't well regarded at his workplace. Furthermore, he often boasts about his father being the bank's president, using that as a way to assert dominance over others. He sometimes assigns menial tasks to other employees and even acts aggressively toward his department head. Hannah hasn't made their relationship public at work yet, but some of her close colleagues have advised her not to continue seeing Ethan. As Hannah spoke, my own expression gradually darkened. The thought of her considering marriage with such a person made me deeply anxious. Even so, do you really want to marry him?
yeah, his words and attitude can be harsh, but he can be kind sometimes.
I see. I thought about it for a while, but in the end, I decided to respect her feelings. All right, then let me meet him. He's coming to introduce himself, isn't he? I'll keep my schedule open.
Well, about that, Ethan said, individual introductions are a hassle. He thinks it's more efficient to do it during the meeting between our parents.
What did you say? I couldn't hide my surprise. Normally, when you get engaged, the person themselves should first visit and introduce themselves to the other's parents. It's basic etiquette. Dismissing this as a hassle raised serious doubts in my mind. No matter how times have changed, Cutting corners in such an important moment doesn't sit well with me. Still, seeing Hannah's anxious face, I couldn't bring myself to argue. If this was the person she chose, I told myself I should support her for now. All right, that's fine.
Thank you, Dad.
Hannah looked relieved, then returned to her room to contact Ethan immediately. Watching her back as she left, I was left alone in the living room, letting out a deep sigh. A lingering unease swirled in my heart. 1 week after receiving news of her engagement, Hannah and I headed to a high-end restaurant for the meeting between the families. Arriving there, I took a deep breath outside the private room, trying to calm my nerves. This was an important day for Hannah, so I had to approach it with a clear mind. Still, the concern she had shared about Ethan cast a shadow over my thoughts. After clearing my throat, I knocked on the door and opened it. Inside, Ethan was already seated with his parents, Alan and Sarah. Alan exuded an air of authority, while Sarah radiated a refined elegance. Thank you for waiting. I apologize for being late.
Oh well, you're technically on time. But could you avoid making us wait? I'm a busy man.
I apologize. Alan looked at his watch and spoke irritably, catching me off guard for a moment. I quickly apologized politely. After sitting down with Hannah, we exchanged formal introductions. Nice to meet you. I'm Mike Calloway, Hannah's father.
I'm Hannah Calloway.
Calloway. That name sounds familiar. But never mind. By the way, I don't see your wife, Mike. Is she running late?
Alan furrowed his brows and asked. I took a deep breath before answering. Oh, my wife passed away several years ago.
Oh my, is that so?
So, Hannah grew up without a mother. Well, that's unfortunate.
Hearing this, Sarah widened her eyes in surprise, but Alan snorted dismissively. His tone carried a clear sense of condescension. I stayed silent, observing, though I couldn't help but feel slightly uncomfortable. Next, Ethan and his family began their introductions.
My name is Ethan Smith. This is my father, the president of Union Star Bank, and my mother, who serves as his secretary.
Nice to meet you. I'm Alan Smith.
I'm Sarah Smith.
They nodded slightly and greeted us with minimal courtesy. Though the atmosphere was formal, I thought perhaps this was just how elite families behave these days. Ethan's demeanor also seemed polite at first glance, and I couldn't find anything immediately concerning that might have caused Hannah's unease. However, Ethan's next words completely shattered that impression.
Now then, before we proceed, I'd like to confirm something. Mike, could you tell us about your educational background?
Excuse me? I was taken aback by the unexpected question. Well, my educational background?
Yes. Everyone in our family has graduated from Harvard University. Since Hannah graduated from a prestigious university, she passes. Now it's just down to you.
Excuse me? Ethan continued as if this was a perfectly normal topic of discussion. Momentarily at a loss for words, I decided I couldn't lie and answered honestly. I graduated from high school. I didn't attend college.
High school?
What did you say?
The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Ethan raised his voice, and Alan's eyes widened. Sarah covered her mouth in shock.
A high school graduate trying to marry his daughter into the Smith family?
This is outrageous. A high school graduate is incompetent. Unbelievable.
Well, Alan fiercely criticized me, and Sarah echoed his sentiments. I tried to respond, but was left speechless by the sudden turn of events. Hannah was also frozen, unable to say anything. Ethan, joining in on his parents' reactions, added his own remarks.
Unbelievable. I had no idea Hannah's father was just a high school graduate. I mistakenly assumed her father must be exceptional based on her academic background and work performance.
Ethan,
Excuse me, but does my educational background really matter that much? I raised my voice in protest, but Alan and Sarah continued without hesitation.
I refuse to accept a high school graduate father-in-law into our elite family.
Exactly. And Hannah was raised without a mother, wasn't she? A girl raised by a single father couldn't possibly have proper manners. Ethan, you should call off this marriage.
Well, I'd like to, but I have to admit she's my type physically. Plus, she always does as I say.
Ethan turned to Sarah and said this without hesitation. At that moment, a surge of shock and anger hit me. The reason Ethan chose Hannah wasn't her heart or personality, but simply her appearance and obedience. Are you telling me you're marrying Hannah for those reasons alone?
No, of course, I'm also considering her educational background and performance at work. Ideally, I'd have preferred someone from Harvard like us. But since she attended a fairly well-known university, she passes.
Passes? What exactly do you mean by passes? Is this some sort of test? I couldn't help but question him, but this time, Alan interjected.
The Smith family is an elite lineage that has lasted for generations. We have to carefully evaluate the background of anyone joining our family to protect its status.
Alan's absolutely right. There's no way we can let a high school graduate cross our threshold. It would be a disgrace for generations to come.
Then, does this mean Hannah's marriage is? I lowered my head and was at a loss for my words. Because of me, my daughter's marriage could fall apart. The thought tightened my chest. However, at that moment, Ethan, after thinking for a while, spoke up.
Dad, Mom, I can't accept Mike's educational background. He's definitely incompetent. But out of all the women I've dated, Hannah is the best of the lot.
wait, Ethan? That's a terrible thing to say.
You really want to get married to her? I guess it can't be helped. If the next president candidate insists, I suppose I can allow it.
Alan reluctantly agreed, his tone filled with dissatisfaction. Sarah nodded in agreement.
If Alan consents, I have no objections.
Well, congratulations, Mike and Hannah. Now you can become part of the Smith family.
Hannah. I looked at Hannah. She appeared troubled and averted her gaze. At that moment, I thought if she didn't want this, I would call off the marriage. However, the next moment, Hannah raised her head and quietly said,
I look forward to your continued guidance.
Great. Now we can proceed with our wedding.
All right, let's wrap this up. The purpose of this meeting was just to confirm the educational background.
With that, Alan and Sarah quickly left the room, and Ethan followed suit. Their behavior left Hannah in silence. I considered urging Hannah to rethink, but she had chosen to marry Ethan. Though conflicted, I decided to quietly support her. The meeting ended, and 6 months later, the wedding was held. I attended the venue for the ceremony. The moment I saw Hannah in her wedding dress, my chest tightened with emotion, and I couldn't hold back tears before the main event. However, that happy moment didn't last long. After the guests had checked in, and I was about to take my seat in the venue, a shocking sight greeted me. On the name card at my seat was a handwritten label that read, "Incompetent High School Dad." What is this?
I stuck it there earlier.
A voice called out from behind me. I turned around to see Ethan grinning smugly. Behind him, Hannah, still in her dress, rushed in, panicked. It's not time for the bride and groom to enter yet, is it?
That's true, but I forgot to let you know about the name card. Also, I wanted to see your shocked, stupid expression.
Ethan, everyone's watching.
Hannah tried to stop him, but Ethan ignored her. At that moment, Alan and Sarah approached from the groom's side of the venue, also grinning.
Isn't it ridiculous for someone so incompetent to attend this wedding? The elites should celebrate amongst themselves.
If you don't like it, just leave.
I agree. Mike doesn't belong here.
Ethan joined in with his parents, mocking me. Their words froze Hannah's expression. Hannah's guests were bewildered and fell silent, while Ethan's guests, mostly bank associates, said nothing, adhering to his family's status. Unable to bear the atmosphere any longer, I tried to remain calm, but finally clenched my fists tightly, my patience at its limit. Yet, without letting my anger show, I silently glared at Ethan and his family. At that moment, I resolved to put an end to all the humiliation I had endured. I'm closing my $20 billion account.
What?
My words echoed quietly through the venue. For a moment, Ethan didn't understand what I had said and simply stood there, stunned. Afterward, they would deeply regret their treatment of me.
What are you talking about all of a sudden?
Closing an account. What does that mean?
And did you just say $20 billion? That can't be true.
Ethan and Alan were visibly shaken, while Sarah sneered dismissively. Without flinching, I silently took out my business card and handed it to Ethan. The moment he looked at it, his face turned pale as if all the blood had drained from it.
President of Callaway Trading Corporation, Mike Callaway? That's
a major trading company and one of our most valued clients.
What?
Ethan's voice trembled, and Alan's eyes widened in shock. Sarah gasped audibly. As it turned out, I was the president of a major trading company, and I held a corporate account at Union Star Bank, where Alan served as the president. After losing my wife and raising young Hannah on my own, I had poured myself into my work. At 45, I established my own company. Callaway Trading was a general trading company engaged in international transactions and operations across various sectors such as energy, metals, food, and chemicals. Though the early days were fraught with challenges, my relentless effort and ingenuity led the company to become a major enterprise by its 13th year. By addressing client needs and offering unique products and services, I secured sufficient funds to invest in the talent, infrastructure, and technology essential for growth. With a strong leadership team and well-executed strategies, the pace of expansion accelerated. Today, the company has bases worldwide, contributing to global trade. The corporate account held at Union Star Bank amounted to $20 billion. In other words, I was one of Union Star Bank's largest clients. During the engagement meeting 6 months ago, I didn't get a chance to mention my profession, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to introduce myself.
Oh, I remember now. At the engagement meeting, I thought the name Calloway sounded familiar. I never imagined you were one of our top clients.
It's too late now. I glared coldly at Alan. He immediately shifted his tone, speaking to me in a formal, polite manner.
Oh, come on now. You should have mentioned this right away back then.
You were the ones who left early, weren't you? Besides, as the bank president, shouldn't you remember the names of your key clients?
I'm terribly sorry. It's just that I've never had the opportunity to meet you directly due to work.
Alan wiped the sweat off his brow as he scrambled to explain. It was true that we had never met before. Alan typically delegated day-to-day transactions to his staff and focused on managing the bank as a whole, rarely interacting directly with clients. Even so, I couldn't hide my disappointment. When Hannah told me Ethan's father was the president of Union Star Bank, I thought it was quite the coincidence.
Yes, quite a coincidence indeed.
But as soon as you found out I was a high school graduate, your attitude completely changed, and you looked down on me. So I'll be transferring our corporate account to another bank. I've already deposited funds in other banks, so they'll likely take over our business. As I delivered this statement firmly, the forced smiles on Alan and Sarah's faces quickly turned to panic.
Wait, isn't this decision a bit premature?
Please reconsider.
Then could you start by removing that seating card? It's extremely unpleasant. Calmly, I pointed to the card. On it, the words "Incompetent High School Dad" were written in bold letters. Ethan, who had been frozen in shock, hastily tore the card to pieces.
I'm so sorry. That was a mistake.
A mistake? Who were you planning to put it on? Or did you just put it in the wrong spot? Surely you weren't intending to stick it directly on my back.
No, of course not. Hannah, it's terrible that you didn't tell me about Mike, your father's profession.
Ethan, sweating profusely, turned to Hannah for support, but she avoided his gaze and looked down.
Ethan, you've only ever talked about yourself. You never asked me any questions.
Is that true, Ethan?
Well, I mean, does it really matter now? At least we've confirmed that Mike isn't incompetent just because he's a high school graduate. Now, let's move on and get the wedding started. Hannah, come here.
Perhaps realizing how bad things looked, Ethan hurriedly tried to lead Hannah away. But she didn't move. Hannah stood frozen, taking a deep breath.
Hannah, what's wrong?
I've decided. I'm not getting married.
What?
Ethan's voice trembled. His disbelief was evident as he stared at Hannah after hearing her declaration moments before their wedding. Her quiet yet firm words sent a chill through the entire room. Surprise was etched on my face, as well as Alan's and Sarah's.
What are you saying? You've been accepted into an elite family.
That's right. This is such an honor and a joyful occasion. Now let's celebrate with your father.
That's exactly why I don't want this. What's so great about an elite family? You've been looking down on my dad this whole time.
Hannah raised her head and responded with a composed but firm expression. Her words left Ethan even more flustered. He couldn't believe the Hannah standing before him now was the same person he thought he knew.
But you love me, don't you? I love you too, Hannah. That's why I wanted to marry you.
At the engagement meeting 6 months ago, didn't you say you only like my face and how convenient I was?
No, I didn't say that. I told you I admired how capable you were.
Ethan stammered, hastily denying her accusation. He desperately tried to convince her, but Hannah's response was cold. Her heart had already drifted far from him. Taking a deep breath, she continued with a resolute tone.
I've decided not to get married anymore. I'm breaking off our engagement. I don't want to become family with people who look down on my dad.
Why are you saying this all of a sudden? We've gone through all the preparations for today, and we're just about to have our ceremony.
It's not sudden. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I wanted to put my dad at ease. And yes, I did love you, but not anymore.
Hannah paused briefly before stating her feelings quietly. Ethan was visibly shaken, unable to hide his shock. Hearing her words, I felt a deep sense of pride that my daughter had made her decision on her own terms. But Ethan refused to give up.
Why? If we love each other, there's no issue, right?
There's a big issue. You've been embezzling company funds, haven't you?
What?
Ethan's voice rose sharply in shock. Alan and Sarah froze on the spot.
Are you talking about funds from Union Star Bank headquarters?
What does this mean? Is it true, Ethan?
I have a friend in the accounting department, and she confided in me.
Hannah explained calmly after taking a deep breath. Hannah had a close relationship with a female employee from the accounting department, someone she would occasionally spend time with outside of work. About 3 months ago, this employee approached her with a grave and serious expression, seeking her advice. The employee alleged that Ethan had been intimidating accounting staff into handing over petty cash stored at the company. He had reportedly justified his actions by saying, I'm the president's son, so it's fine if I take a little. He had also threatened them, hand over the money, or I'll spin the story to my parents and have you fired. The stolen cash was apparently covered up by the accounting department employees, who falsified documents and took measures to ensure that Ethan's actions would not be exposed. When Hannah heard about this, she initially wanted to confront Ethan directly, but fear held her back. Moreover, with the wedding preparations already underway, it was likely difficult for her to fully process the reality that her partner had been engaging in wrongdoing. Hannah eventually confided in me alone about the matter, torn over whether to call off the engagement. All I could do was respect her wishes, and after much deliberation, we arrived at the day of the wedding. As Hannah finished her explanation, Ethan panicked while Alan and Sarah directed their anger squarely at him.
Ethan, what is the meaning of this?
I'm sorry, Dad. It was a moment of weakness. I didn't mean any harm. I just needed some extra spending money.
What do you think company funds are for? I can't believe this. I didn't raise you to be like this.
Ethan stammered out excuses, but Alan's face turned pale as his voice grew louder. Sarah's anger erupted as well. The venue descended into chaos. and the guests were left speechless by the sudden turn of events. Amid the commotion, I let out a deep sigh. Isn't it natural for people to lose trust in a bank with employees like this? That's another reason why I'm moving our funds to a more trustworthy institution.
We're deeply sorry. We had no idea.
Could we perhaps continue this discussion another day? The guests are watching us.
Sarah suggested nervously, but I shook my head. Hannah has already said she's not getting married. That means there's no reason for us to stay here. Let's consider this engagement null and void. I'll handle the account transfers later. Hannah, let's go.
Okay.
Hannah, wait.
Ethan desperately tried to stop us. But without looking back, Hannah and I calmly gathered our belongings and left the venue. The next morning, during a quiet holiday morning, Hannah and I were relaxing at home. Our peaceful time was abruptly interrupted by the sound of our doorbell ringing.
Who could that be?
Hannah walked to the door and opened it to find Ethan, Alan, and Sarah standing there with gifts in hand. Ethan's face was marked with deep regret, and Alan and Sarah appeared visibly uneasy.
Anna, we're deeply sorry for everything.
And what exactly are you apologizing for?
For hurting Mike, of course. And for betraying you.
He had a sullen look on his face. I observed the interaction from the living room before slowly walking toward the entrance. Upon seeing me, Alan and Sarah immediately apologized to me.
Mike, we sincerely apologize for the terribly rude behavior of our son.
That apology extends to both of you as well, doesn't it? Ethan isn't the only one at fault here.
Yes, of course. That's why we've come to apologize in person.
Ethan also flustered and apologized to me. Though slightly exasperated by the sight, I invited them into the living room for now. Prompted to sit on the sofa, Ethan and his parents awkwardly took their seats. Hannah brought them tea, but they began showering her with excessive praise for the gesture.
Thank you. You really are a wonderful woman.
Absolutely. Such elegance. It's clear that Mike's upbringing was exceptional.
Exactly. It's this subtle kindness that made me fall for her.
Alan took the lead, followed by Sarah. Ethan also added comments with a fawning smile. Yet Hannah did not show a single trace of a smile. Her cold gaze was palpable, and I cut off their superficial flattery. Are you here just to apologize? Or is there another reason you came, bringing gifts with you?
As expected of you, Mike. Actually, this is about the money transfer.
I have no intention of reconsidering. My immediate response caused Alan to panic.
Please. If you move $20 billion, it would be a massive problem for the bank.
Alan was pleading with me. I understood well the gravity of losing a major client. A significant client provides substantial profits through deposits and loans. Losing one would reduce interest and fee income. Furthermore, losing a significant client could impact the bank's credibility, potentially damaging trust from other clients and the market. Additionally, acquiring new clients would incur marketing and operational costs, risking further losses to competitors and diminishing the bank's presence in the industry. However, these were all issues on the bank's side. While fully aware of these risks, I had no intention of making any concessions. I'm sorry, but I won't reconsider.
Please, I'm begging you. Think of it as helping out our bank.
No. My resolute tone left Sarah visibly flustered as she also began pleading, but my answer remained firm. At that moment, Ethan interjected.
Then, could you at least allow our marriage?
Why are you bringing this up now? Hannah already said she doesn't want to marry you.
But I still love Hannah. Please, let me marry your daughter.
I raised an eyebrow in disbelief, but Ethan remained determined. To his sudden proposal, Hannah responded coldly, her face expressionless.
I'm breaking up with you.
No, please. Don't do this, Hannah.
Why now? As soon as you found out my dad was the CEO of a major corporation, you started clinging to me. Are you after inheritance rights or something?
Her words caused Ethan's complexion to change. It seemed she had hit the mark.
That's not true. I mean, sure, if we get married, it'd be convenient to inherit some assets later or even half. But that's definitely not what I'm thinking.
That's awful.
No, that's not my real intention at all. I'm absolutely not after any inheritance. I'm not thinking about money at all.
Ethan tried desperately to make excuses, but his words lacked sincerity. Seeing his obvious distress, Hannah let out an exasperated sigh. Alan and Sarah then stood up and knelt at Hannah's feet, pleading,
Please, Hannah. We were wrong. Marry Ethan, I beg you.
If not, at least convince Mike to stop transferring the money.
What are you thinking? There's no way I'd do that.
Hannah's anger did not subside. Still, Ethan refused to give up.
Why not? When we were dating, you always listened to what I said.
That's because I loved you, but not anymore. I'm not so kind as to treat a man who disrespected my dad with any kindness.
This can't be.
Ethan was stunned and at a loss for words. Alan and Sarah also seemed to be reflecting on their arrogance, albeit too late, but we had no intention of forgiving them. Please leave now. We're done here.
Wait, please.
Reconsider the money transfer, I beg you.
Alan continued to persist, and Sarah pleaded tearfully. But I ignored them and began ushering Ethan and his family out of the house. Using the last of his strength, Ethan turned to Hannah and begged,
Hannah, I can't live without you. Let's try again.
Even if you say that, I feel nothing anymore. Sorry, but I can live just fine without you, Ethan. This is the end for us.
No way.
Hannah's response was cold, and Ethan collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Alan and Sarah also looked utterly defeated. Without paying them any further attention, I forcibly pushed them out of the house and quietly closed the door. After they left, silence returned to the house, and Hannah and I finally felt a sense of relief. Afterward, I visited the headquarters of Union Star Bank and calmly processed the transfer of funds and the closure of the account. Alan bowed repeatedly, pleading with me to reconsider, but I did not entertain his requests. In the end, Alan had no choice but to comply with my demands. His head hung low in shock throughout the process. Meanwhile, Hannah found it unbearable to continue working at Union Star Bank and decided to resign. She switched to another bank and began working in a new environment. Around the same time, Alan and Sarah severely reprimanded Ethan and announced his dismissal. He was kicked out of their home and ordered to repay $10,000 he had embezzled. Ethan sold his savings and personal belongings to move into an apartment, but news of his embezzlement spread rapidly. Union Star Bank lost credibility, along with many of its clients. Currently, Alan and Sarah are working hard to rebuild trust, but the stress has led to daily arguments between them. Ethan tried to find a job at another bank, but his embezzlement was already well known, forcing him to give up. He changed industries but caused trouble at his new workplace due to his bad attitude and was fired, leaving him no choice but to seek help from his parents, who refused him. He even tried to visit Hannah, but after I reported him to the authorities, he seemed to finally give up on her. Now, Ethan lives alone in an apartment, spending his days working part-time jobs. As for me, I continued as the CEO of Callaway Trading Company, striving every day. I moved my substantial funds to a trustworthy bank, finally finding peace of mind. Hannah also made a fresh start at her new job, dedicating herself to her work with renewed determination. She has no plans to marry for the time being, and once said, "I'm sorry I couldn't reassure you." But rather than feeling disappointed, I was relieved to still have her by my side as my daughter. That said, I can't always stand behind her, watching over her forever. As her father, I intend to respect her wishes while helping her find a suitable partner so she can find true happiness.